Warden, I reached in there and got my gun, pistol, out from the holster. I said, Lord, I can't go this anymore. I'm dying. I'm so tormented. I pulled the hammer back on the gun, put it up to my head, kneeling there on that cot in that dark room. I said, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thine will be done. As I tried, I squeezed that trigger as hard as I could. I said, on earth as it is in heaven, give us this day our daily bread, and it wouldn't go off. I thought, oh God, are you just tearing me to pieces? What have I done? You won't even let me die. And I threw the gun down and went off and shot through the room. I said, God, why can't I die and get out of it? I just can't go no farther. You've got to do something to me. And I fell over and started crying on my little old dirty bunk there. And I must have went to sleep. I don't know whether it was asleep or what happened. I've always longed to be out west. I've always wanted one of them hats. My father broke horses in his young days, and I always wanted one of them hats. And Brother Demas Sakaran bought me one yesterday. First one I've had ever had it like that. One of them kind of western hats. And I thought I was going down along through the prairie, singing that song. There's a wheel on the wagon is broken, sign on the ranch for sale. As I went along, I noticed an old covered wagon, like a little prairie schooner, and the wheel was broke. Of course, that represented my broken family. And as I got close, I looked, and there stood a real pretty young girl, about 20 years old, white flowing hair and blue eyes, dressed in white. I looked over at her. I said, "How do you do?" Went on. She said, "Hello, Dad." And I turned back and I said, "Dad?" Well, I said, "How, miss, can I be your daddy when you're as old as I am?" She said, "Daddy, you just don't know where you're at." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" She said, "This is heaven." Said, "On earth I was your little Sharon." Well, I said, "Honey, you was just a little baby." Said, "Daddy, little babies are not little babies. Sure, they're immortal. They never get old or never grow." And I said, "Oh," she said, "Mama's waiting for you." And I said, "Where?" She said, "Up at your new home." I said, "New home? Branhams are vagabonds. They don't have homes. They just..." And I said, "Well, I never had a home, honey." She said, "But you got one up here, Daddy." I don't mean to be a baby, but it's just so real to me. As I start to thinking of it, it all comes back again. She said, "You got one here, Daddy." "I know I got one over there. Someday I'll go to it." She said, "Where's Billy Paul, my brother?" I said, "Well, I left him at Miss Broy's just a few minutes ago." Said, "Mother wants to see you." And I turned and looked, and there was great big palaces, and the glory of God coming up around them, and I heard an angelic choir singing, "My home, sweet home." I started up a long steps running just as hard as I could, and when I got to the door, there she stood, a white garment on, that black hair long, holding down her back. She raised out her arms, as she always did when I come home tired from work or something. I caught her by the hands, and I said, "Honey, I seen Sharon down there." I said, "She made a pretty girl, didn't she?" She said, "Yes, Bill." She said, "Bill," put her arms around me, and she said, just around my shoulders, she started patting me. She said, "Stop worrying about me and Sharon." I said, "Honey, I can't help it." She said, "Now, Sharon and I are better off than you are." And said, "Don't worry about us no more. Will you promise me?" And I said, I said, "I've been so lonesome for you and for Sharon, and Billy cries all the time for you." I said, "I don't know what to do with him." And she said, "It'll be all right, Bill." She said, "Just promise me you won't weary no more." And she said, "Won't you sit down?" And I looked around, And there's a great big chair. And I remember I tried to buy a chair. Now, in closing, I tried to buy a chair one time. We just had them old common wooden bottom chairs for that breakfast set. We had to use them, the old chairs we had. And we could buy one of these chairs that let back in the back like I forget what kind of an easy rest chair. And it cost $17. You could pay $3 down and $1 a week. And we got one. And when I come in, I'd work all day and preach till midnight around the streets and wherever I could preach. And one day I got behind on my payments. We couldn't make it. And it got day after day. And finally, one day they come and got my chair and took it. That night I never will forget, she had me a cherry pie baked, poor little old thing. She knowed I was going to be disappointed. And after supper I said, "What's you so good about tonight, honey?" And she said, "Say, I had the boys over in the neighborhood to dig you some fishing worms. Don't you think we ought to go down to the river and fish a little while?" And I said, "Yes, but..." And she started crying. I knew there was something wrong. I had an idea, because it already sent me a notice it's coming to get it. We couldn't make that $1 payment a week. We couldn't afford it. She put her arms around me, and I went to the door, and my chair was gone. She told me up there, she said, "You remember that chair, Bill?" And I said, "Yes, honey, I remember." She said, "That's what she's thinking about, wasn't it?" "Yeah." She said, "Well, they won't take this one. This one's paid for." She said, "Sit down just a minute, I want to talk to you." And I said, "Honey, I don't understand this." And she said, "Promise me, Billy, promise me that you won't worry anymore. You're going back now." I said, "Promise me you won't worry." And I said, "I can't do that." And just then I come to. It was dark in the room. I looked around and I felt her arm around me. I said, "Hope, are you here in the room?" She started patting me. She said, "You gonna make me that promise, Bill? Promise me you won't worry no more?" I said, "I promise you." And then she patted me 2 or 3 times, and she was gone. I jumped up and turned on the light, looked everywhere. She was gone. But she's just gone out of the room. She isn't gone. She's still living. She was a Christian. Billy and I went to the grave here some time ago, packing a little flower for his mother and sister, just on an Easter morning, and we stopped. The little fellow started crying. He said, "Daddy, my mom is down there." I said, "No, honey, no, she ain't down there. Sister ain't down there." We got a folded over grave here, but way across the sea there's an open grave where Jesus rose, and someday He'll come, He'll bring Sister and Mama with Him. I'm on the battlefield today, friends. I just can't tell anymore. God bless you. Let's bow our heads a minute.